Call the board meeting to order. Phyllis, would have roll call, please?
Greg Koshaw. Here. Bill Carbach. Here. Ken Meyer.
Here. You were emailed a copy of the minutes from our August 6th meeting. We look for a motion to approve or amend those minutes.
August 20th.
Motion to approve.
From,
August 20th.
I didn't change my dates here. From August 20th.
Oh, my pardon.
August 20th.
Correction, August 20th. So
Today's
I make a motion
September.
to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Motion and a second to approve the minutes from our August 20th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Also, I would need, look for an approval to approve our minutes from our executive session that we held on August 26th.
Motion to approve the executive meeting minutes from August 26th.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. First thing, we don't need Jeremy for this River Greenway DNR thing, do we? Okay. Tim, take it away.
Don, can you get that up on the... Oh.
Room on.
Okay. Back in, whenever the city funded the River Greenway, when that was installed back, I think, in the 1980s, I think 1985, DNR, it was funded in part through a DNR grant, which administers U.S. park funds. Well, apparently, the parameters or design of what was included in that grant is shown on the screen. And there are different colored tracks to identify different parts that were designated as part of the River Greenway. And I'm going to start at the very top because this is an issue that I didn't feel comfortable doing until I brought it to everybody's attention. If you look, the River Greenway actually starts at Jackson Street.
Yeah, you're going to have to define what I can't read that.
Okay, at the very top in the green colored area, at the edge there, at the very top edge, that's Jackson Street. And the St. Mary's River runs between those two green parcels.
Gotcha.
So it's shown that the River Greenway starts on both sides of the river between Jackson Street and Monroe Street. I think the only reason...
The other green spot would be the parking lot area.
At that time, it was actually green space that's delineated there. Part of that's been paved over, okay? But you notice on the east side of the river, it's basically all of Riverside, including the parking area. So...
No, wait a minute. That's Jackson Street to the very north?
Yes.
So I don't see Riverside on that.
Riverside is that big square green chunk on the right side of the river.
Jackson's the one that goes this way and then turns.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the... I got
The red is where Monroe Street Bridge is,
big
where top of the green
Riverside
Jackson
Center.
Street Bridges.
The diagonal space is the west side of the river.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So,
now I do. Gotcha.
okay, so what she told me is all of these parcels that make up where the River Greenway Trail was shown at the time, or where it was going to be located, was supposed to have included a restrictive covenant that the U.S. Park Department requires that basically limits any future use of that designated area for park purposes only. Okay? Mm-hmm. So when they were doing the nature preserve...
Cam and Wiley, try listening in on this. I'm sorry that I didn't... Yeah.
When the nature preserve project was being done, we had to submit documentation to DNR that included that restrictive covenant. Okay, so all of the deeds that we obtained to put in the nature preserve has that. But as DNR was going through that, they pulled out the River Greenway grant and realized that none of those instruments had that restrictive covenant. So Lisa Herbert down at DNR tells me that we now have to go back and get that DNR covenant included in all of the conveyances. The problem is, and so we did have a legal description for on the east side or the west side of the river between Jackson and Monroe. So Brett Miller has given that to us. But the issue is where Riverside Center is located. Riverside is actually, it's comprised of two different parcels. It runs kind of midway through the building. There's one piece that then over to 224, and the second parcel is the rest that goes over to Jackson Street, but then it includes land that goes all the way down to 224. So we don't want to encumber all of that, but I didn't want to encumber where Riverside Center was with this restrictive covenant before I brought this to your attention, because technically then, in the future, Riverside's only supposed to be used for park-related purposes if you put that restrictive covenant in it. And she's claiming it has to be because it was part of the grant to begin with. So I've got a deed prepared, but that property, Riverside, is actually owned by the city. It's not owned by the Parks Department. So my question to you is, does the city want to transfer ownership of that to the Park and Rec Department and add this restrictive covenant? And I don't know what the consequences are if we say no. Because she's saying that that should have been done back then. It wasn't, and she's now requiring it. If we don't agree to that, then we may have to pay back part of the grant that was originally used to fund.
What happens if you just politely and innocently say, Lisa, you weren't involved in 1985 when this was all done, and neither was I, and on Decatur's end, those people have passed away. Now, what...
I've argued that.
We've already got a building there that's not being used for park and rec purposes.
I thought it was.
Well, it is, but it's used for other things also.
Right. But isn't it under the direction of the Parks Board? It is.
They manage the facility, but they don't own it.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know whether they would ever actually come up and check, but I didn't want to just deed it over to the Park and Rec Department and put this restrictive covenant until you guys were all aware of this.
How did it look legally prior to the grant, prior to this?
The deed to Riverside is to the city of Decatur. Okay? It was a deed that we got back in 1970. And it just conveys it to the city of Decatur.
Who did that come from?
Jesse Bell.
Why can't we just stop River Greenway on the west side?
Well,
We don't need the east side.
because it was included to begin with. I think the reason,
Why don't we take it out? Tell them we don't want it in there.
I think the reason that Riverside's included is I think they use that as the trailhead.
They do, yeah. Well, you do have a trail on that side.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not being actually used for the River Greenway, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really?
Yeah, that's where they run the 5K.
And I think in order to get a grant, you have to have a trailhead. So
And that has the restroom facilities. and
right.
the
That's
trail.
why I think that's why it's there. So it's integral
I
to
think
the
that if
DNR
we
grant.
I think if we just go ahead and do it and say it's for, that building's for park and rec use only, and not worry about DNR ever coming here, if they do, whatever, we'll deal with it.
But the only problem with that is if we wanted future grants in that area. But
We just run it through the Parks and Rec, wouldn't we?
But it's going to have to be for park and rec purposes.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of grants, Melissa, do we do that? If we have any grants that apply to Riverside?
Okay, flip that up though. Don't you think that if you go after another DNR grant that they're gonna hold out?
Yeah, if we don't comply with what they're telling us we need to do, yeah, I think it affects us.
Right. But I'm not saying not to apply, but we've got to look at whatever our decision is. how should that impact grants in the future?
Yeah, and there's,
I don't think we have a choice.
and okay, so those two properties are owned by the city, the green colored ones. Then you come down on the south side of Monroe Street, that little strip that runs, runs
Parallel to...
parallel to 224 and then comes down along the river to where it kind of bends out a little bit. That little strip is still owned by Community Family Services. So I'm working with them to try to get them to give me, and that's an easement. That's not, it's a perpetual easement for the River Greenway. We don't own that. So I'm working with them, trying to get them to give us this new easement with that DNR restrictive covenant included. The next section on down, if you can slide down, Don, with the draw. Is that it? Is that all you had?
All you've got.
Okay, well, there's more to it. But,
Get out down to Kikion or something?
well, yeah, it goes all the way down there. So the next section is already included in the deed that we got from St. Mary's and Community Family when we did the nature preserve. So we've got the DNR covenant in there for that, down to the bridge. Then the city owns the old railroad trust, so Ken's already signed an easement or a deed for that one that included it. Then we get over to going on down on the east side, or the west side of the river, okay, after the trust, and it goes through a parcel that was owned by the Spalding Trust. It's now owned by Jim and Becky Cochran. So I'm going to have to work with them and get an easement from them. And then we get to Kikionga, and that's owned by the Park Department. So we can deed that, but I had Ken sign that, but now that I find out that that's actually owned by the Park Department, I'm going to have the Park Board approve that and have Larry Ish sign it, and probably the Secretary of the Park, and then we'll record that. That'll give, so I need to do this for the green areas, which I just want to make sure you guys are okay with. And I'm working with Community Family Services, and I'll have to work with Jim and Becky. Once we have those, then we'll be able to get everything done that she's looking for, but she hits me up pretty much every month wanting to know if we've gotten this done and can I send her copies of everything. So I sent her what I had, and then she even had questions about that, but I think we've got that worked out.
Girl needs to find something else to do.
So you need a motion for,
So I guess
to write it up?
so I've got it prepared.
and sign for it?
So what I've got is we're going to have to get a legal description for the Riverside property because we don't have that. We're probably going to have Brett give me this parcel and then part of this parcel, because that's what's shown in that drawing right there. So I just need you guys to okay that, and I'll go ahead and have them do it, and we'll get the deed transferred to the Park Department for Riverside and include that restrictive covenant.
Let's get that motion. Gotta keep moving.
What's tied to the restrictive covenant? That the parks is in control?
Basically, anything that's designated originally with the grant for the River Greenway can only be used for park and rec purposes.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I have a question before we do that.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it has to be something that's exactly tied with the park, or can people still rent the Riverside Center to use through the Parks Department?
Technically, unless it's a park...
Legally or technically?
Well, I'm asking.
No, that's what I'm saying. No. Technically, no.
See, Craig,
But
since 1985 we've been doing it, and the DNR thinks it's one way. They've never checked us since 1985. I don't think they are in the future either.
Okay.
yeah,
So basically, this is just clearing up legal stuff.
it's just something that should have been done back in 1985.
Right. But are we going, with our ordinance and things like that we have now that says we can do things at the Riverside Park?
Doesn't override it. Doesn't override the DNR grant or the restrictive covenant.
I personally think it makes it a stronger argument for them to own it, right? Because if they're owning it and they're collecting the rent, and the rent's going to them, it's still for the East Park Department, I think now you could argue that not going back to the park,
Well, and now I've got to go to the park board and make sure they're okay with taking ownership. We can't just give it to them if they don't want
They're
it.
maintaining it
Right,
anyway.
I would think so, but again, Phyllis, how does this work with funding?
Well, park department has their own tax rate. They have their own board that approves things. So...
Right, but in terms of the cost of maintenance of the building, who pays for that?
The Park and Rec Fund.
They pay for it?
But on the other hand, we fund the Parks and Rec Board through council.
Well, you approve their budget.
We approve their budget, which is funded through city taxes?
It's through, yes.
Yes.
But they
Okay.
have their own tax rate. Park and Rec has their own tax rate. But
Okay.
it's combined in with the city tax rate.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Tim to go ahead and prepare
All right,
yours
great.
for me
So
to
let me
sign.
get this straight, I'm sorry, Tim.
Okay.
So, what you're doing is changing the deed, so it's deeded to, or you're just adding restrictive covenant?
It's gonna get changed from the City of Decatur to the City of Decatur Park and Recreation Department. And then also, we're gonna need to get a legal description for Riverside, so I know what to put in the deed. And then that includes the restrictive covenant. That'll satisfy Lisa on that property. I've already got the legal, Brett gave that to me on the way that's designed on the, yeah. So, city will deed that to itself with the restrictive covenant. Then community family has to deed it to us on that little strip. We've got St. Mary's deed already covered all the way down to the bridge. Then we do it to ourselves on the bridge. I got to get Becky and Jim to do it to the city. And then we can have the park board deed to itself the Kikianga with the restrictive covenant. And that takes us all the way past and including the pond area next to Evergreen. Because that was shown as part of this too. Which,
A motion and a second to approve Tim to proceed with the paperwork on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
thank you.
Lenny? Chris, you want to come up too? On August 26th, we had an executive session to interview Jamie Thart, Kevin Gerber, and Derek Loshi for the position of detective. And before we proceed any further, I want to say that all three candidates are good candidates for the detective position. Jamie has 20 years service. Kevin has 13 years. Derek has 7 years. And the fact that Derek only has 7 years, Jamie has 20 years, is all immaterial here as far as their qualification for being detective. I think that any one of them would make a good detective. However, it's going to be the opinion of the board here, along with your strong recommendations also as to what we do going forward here. But I want to make sure that for the record that I thank all three of the applicants. They all serve the community excellent. So with that, I thought the interviews went well. Bill, you got comments?
Well, I think what we need to take into consideration is you gentlemen have to run your department. And like you pointed out to us, as the board works, that you don't want to have to go back and in your department and hold whoever we pick their hand and lead them, because you have other things to do. And I think as a board, we took that into deep consideration, or I know I did, and I think we all did, and we want you to have good staff, and that's important to me also. And in the past, like I pointed out at that meeting, in the past we've taken seniority into complete consideration. And we have also here lately taken qualifications into a little bit more consideration, and the person with the most seniority is not necessarily the one that gets the position, because we want to have a good running department. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Would either of you like to weigh in with your thoughts on the whole process?
I think when I spoke to you individually, I gave you my reasons. I'm only thinking just the best of the department. And I agree, we do have some good candidates, but there's always that one, to me, that's a little bit more special. And I have to look at as leader, because we have some real high-profile cases that I think that individual who I recommended would do an excellent job.
Okay.
And I think documentation comes into play also. We want somebody to go back there and be in that position that does well on documentation.
Correct.
Details.
And detail and yeah, so the whole job, basically.
Correct.
Any comments, Craig?
And your recommendation?
Well, go ahead, if you want.
Sergeant Kevin Gerber.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'll make a motion to place Kevin Gerber as our new detective.
Under the advisement of Chief Corral? I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to promote Kevin Gerber to the rank of detective. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now, with that, Kevin's a sergeant, which means we're going to have a sergeant position open up. So
Me and Chris kind of talked a little bit about that. My goal personally is to have everyone in their new positions by October the 1st. I have to go to Pella and Evansville from the 16th through the 20th. I was going to check with you after today to see what their schedules were next week. We'll post something up tomorrow, who's all interested, and see what your availability is as far as for sergeant interviews.
well, we can make ourselves available one way or another unless any of us are traveling or anything, I don't think.
But that's my goal, to put everybody in their prospective new positions by October the 1st.
If only the person that applied for detective puts in for it, since you guys interviewed him already, can you move forward to that or not? You said
What'd you say?
If only Derek applies for it, no one else does.
You open up the job, right? You're going to open up the job to all?
We're going to say if Dallas applies, but there's been talks, some guys, it's a second shift position, and guys don't want second shift. So there's talk that maybe you want to put in for it except for him.
Okay.
So I guess my thought was
If he would be the only one, I would be fine with moving forward, but I can't imagine he would be the only one.
I couldn't either, but
My only question is how long have you posted it?
we've not posted.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. In any type of situation like that, I believe Tim would agree with me that you post it for a certain amount of time, you make a cutoff, and then you decide. You don't, I don't think you want to walk down that path, Chris.
No.
Okay.
No,
Post
if
the
I
job and put a
understood,
deadline on it.
yeah, if I understood what you're saying is, after the posting, if he's the only one that
That's fine.
applies, that's what you're suggesting.
Well, we'll address that if that's a possibility.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead and get it posted. You and I'll talk, and we'll come up with a time for the interviews.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're going to make the notification? Seriously?
Yeah, just here a little bit.
Yeah, please share with them what was said, that we respect all three of them.
Correct.
I sincerely respect all of them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Jeremy, you ready? While you're coming up here, Jeremy, things I have are bids for the dugouts, update on Hannah Nutman, okay quote for light pole bases at Hannah Nutman. That's all I have for you at Hannah Nutman. But those three things were on here. So, do you have some bids? You do have bids. You just handed them to Phyllis.
They're still
Quotes.
quotes.
Open quotes. quotes for dugouts.
Okay, the first dugout quote is submitted by Custom Net Backstops out of Swayze, Indiana. Six fields, 12 dugouts, total quote $54,495. $54,495.
Now, what is included in that price, Jeremy?
That is the block installed.
That's not the slab.
That's not the slab. We will be doing the slab and the footer separately.
Does his price include a roof?
No, it's just all the block work.
That's just the
like
block
we talked
work for the dugouts?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Just like we sat down
And
and
we're
talked
quoting
about
apples to apples here. The other guy is also quoting just the block work, no foundation work, no roof work. Okay.
Yep, correct. Because we have some interest in some contractors
Doing the other things.
doing the other stuff as a donation. So,
Okay. Next sealed bid is submitted by Brent Gibson out of Ohio City, Ohio. Estimate for 12 dugouts, labor and material, $25,660. $25,660.
And we personally met with both of these companies, Jeremy, Don, a few others, can't remember who, Matt, and Brent Gibson is very reliable. He did the dugouts at Rockford, did a beautiful job over at Rockford. Where else did he do, Jeremy?
he's worked over here for Snitz Accounting, doing the stone work. I think he's done some work for Campman's, some sub, and I checked him out over the last month or so, and he's been really, really reparable.
Yep.
So,
I make a motion that we put that under advisement. Is that the only two quotes?
Mm-hmm.
yes, I
Jeremy
solicited for
Gilbert.
3 and got 2. The other one I solicited was Brent Arnold, and he never responded.
I'll second that, yeah. Put it under advisement.
Let
Until-
Jeremy come back, I don't care, whenever he figure out what he wants to do.
Okay. Motion and a second for Jeremy to take this under advisement, review them, come back to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Light pole bases at Hannah Nutman. What'd you got on that, Jeremy?
Okay, on the light pole bases, in the whole planning for Hannah Nutman, the lighting for that property is going to be very expensive. That is probably more of a long-term, more of a capital outlay, 1 to 5 year project, before you get all the fields lit, or the selected fields, if you will. Talking back and forth with Mark from Musco Lighting, we bounced a couple ideas back and forth on each other. What I would like to do is order the light pole bases, which is a prefabricated base, since we're in the process of doing all the dirt and the seeding and stuff at this point. Getting the bases in, getting the conduit stuff ran for the bases. So once that day comes to set the poles, whether it's next year or whether it's 5 years from now, we're not digging around and digging under concrete and disturbing a lot of the work that we already completed. Talking with Mark and going back and looking at the state contracts, Musco is on Sourcewell. It's a state bid or state contract. Sourcewell is basically who we purchased the sweeper through, the street sweeper.
Gibson list.
So with that, we do not need to go through the bidding or the quote process. I spoke with Mr. Baker, explained the situation to him last week, and he was fine with that. That total for that is $38,849. Now, that is for the bases only.
And the conduit to them?
And, well, that's just for the bases. You will have a separate contract at some point for the actual install of those, and I can give you that number here. A budget number that was sent today, and we would have to get 2 more quotes on this, but the budget number to install mobilization, all the concrete, the labor to install, all the fuel expense, the insurance, the office expense, and would be an additional $37,000.
Even?
Yes, but I do not have the other 2 quotes on that. I did solicit 2 other quotes, but we don't have those back yet.
What's that for?
For the actual install of the bases.
And what's the 38,849? That's the
Material
base?
only.
The base itself.
Just the material
That's
only?
material only, for all 6 fields.
So it's 75,000.
So
plus.
when they install the bases and the concrete, they're going to put conduit in it, or are you guys
Yes.
making a separate thing
Yep,
on
they will
that?
put all that in and run it to a central location to where once the concession is built, then we can pick the conduit up before the pad and stuff is poured and the foot is poured for it and run it on in.
Pull the wires later?
Yep. You know,
Okay.
yeah, you won't pull wires until you're ready to set the poles.
Okay.
Get all the conduit and everything sealed off good so people's not stuffing stuff in it.
Yep.
All the time. So, that is kind of a somewhat of an update with the lighting. You know, like I said, I don't have the other 2 quotes yet for the actual labor. They only need the 1 quote for the material, if so desired to order that stuff.
And when we met and we discussed all this and we talked about budgetary numbers and whatever,
Yep.
it's not that this, I guess, for us to be able to do everything that we need to do, some of it would come after the turn of the year when we have more money available, but this is something that we would likely do yet this year
Likely, yes.
because of not wanting to disrupt grounds.
Likely, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I can get into the more of talk of some of that if you guys want to hold off on voting on that part. You know,
Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you go ahead and give an update on...
We can talk about where we need to go to next and see if you guys think it makes sense to do this now or wait. But anyway, at this point, in the last probably 2.5, 3 weeks, Fleming completed all of the dirt work. We did run into some problems with a lot of debris, just a lot of junk that was buried out there. So we had to tweak the design a little bit, but I think it's come out okay. It's causing a little extra work on the final grade for seeding, but you know, we expected some of that. That seeding portion is roughly about halfway. Don and I and a couple guys have been working on that a few days a week, trying to get everything graded out and seeded.
When you say that, what you're seeing is the outfields
Everything.
and the area between the fields that's grassy area. Anywhere where grass is going,
Yep.
and you got about half of it seeded?
About half of it seeded.
3 of the 6 diamonds, huh?
3 of the 6, and we're through the big pond already, so
They get that irrigation in the 3rd one done the other day?
I'm coming with that.
Oh, okay.
So we're about halfway up through there.
Mhm.
Where you were at this morning, where we're standing about halfway,
Yeah.
if you look across on the other side of the lot, we're to that halfway point.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of an update on where we're at with that. The irrigation company will be back tomorrow, as long as we don't get too much rain tonight. They will complete irrigation on diamond number 3, 4, 5, and 6 over Wednesday and Thursday. He's hoping to be able to start the irrigation up on Friday afternoon sometime, so we can get what we have down a good watering and, you know, basically go on a 2 or 3 day cycle per week so we can get that growing before it gets much later in the year. So there's a little bit of work to do there. They seem to move fairly fast, so I'm pretty confident in 2.5 or going into the third day, they should have that all done. We met last week, Phyllis and I and Tim and Don and a few others met, and we talked about where we're at, where we need to be, where we think we need to be, and where we want to be between now and May. Obviously, funding is a little in question. You know, there's still money coming in. But we've kind of laid out a pretty good plan, we think, as to what we need to do, when we need to do it and such. What I'm asking for tonight is I will have a recommendation that we put the fencing, the backstop wall net system out for bid, for public bid. That total would be roughly about $375,000. What that will do is that will get the fencing all the way around, or the fence system all the way around
Each diamond
each diamond,
and the back.
the backstop wall, the netting, out to the dugouts and stuff, and to where at some point this winter we could secure those diamonds from vandalism and kind of help protect what we're investing at this point. That could be about it for the year, you know, depending on what Mother Nature does to us this fall, this winter. Going forward, you're still going to have fence cap, foul poles, the dugouts. We've kind of in the conversation with the dugouts and stuff now, and then some miscellaneous. So you're still $60,000-$70,000 probably going into next year on some finishing touches with the little things that we need, plus the material for the roofs and stuff. So, it's coming along. It's just we're being a little cautious with going into it, not having all the funds right in hand. All in all, I think it's going to be a very good complex. So, if you guys get out and about, feel free to drive back through there and kind of take a look. And it's all really starting to come together. Once last week, Greg Fleming gave us a driver and a dump truck and started putting the stone and stuff on the walking trails and stuff like that. And you can really start to see everything come together.
You can actually turn in off of Washington Street on the new entrance now.
Yep. Keeping in mind as we go, we're putting the conduit and stuff in for the future. We will be putting a conduit in for the street lighting. We have been putting the conduit in for the scoreboards. We will still need to buy scoreboards in the spring. There bases and stuff like that. So there's still going to be some expense going into 20 here to be able to get playing. Tonight I stayed late and Greg got rained out in Fort Wayne. They wanted a bunch of stone right at the end of the day, so there was about 20 more triaxle loads of stone hauled out there in the last couple hours. So hopefully they will not get rained out and they can get more stone hauled on tomorrow. And they probably won't get it all done, but they're getting relatively close with it.
You hauled all that from the street garage?
Yep. So
Put a dent in your stone, didn't it?
we're about out. That's another discussion we need to
I got that on here.
So you're saying roughly $300,000 going forward here to get through the year?
About 375 is what we would shoot for on a public bid. I do have the paperwork, or most of the paperwork, drawn up, subject to approval for this evening, other than getting with Phyllis on the legal advertisement dates and such. We could get it out in the next 30 days or so. I would think within the next week or so, as long as we could open it up in about 30 days. I have met with this backstop guy, and Ken and I and Don met with another one this morning It seems like there's room in everyone's schedule to at least get the majority of these put up yet this year before the weather turns.
Mhm. I got that information from Sam up here for you. Cam's looking at it right now.
The biggest thing is going to be is if the bottom falls out of everything, is if we can at least get 3 of these put back together. Because if we don't get 3 of these put back together, we won't have enough room for all the leagues to play that the girls handle.
Because boys could use Monmouth
They
again if
could
they
go
had to.
back there until we got everything dialed in midsummer, but, you know, the intent, and this 375 would cover all 6 fields.
Yep, yep.
Meaning being that this 375 would basically be about third installments. You know, it's how most of these people like to work, where you give them a third down, you know, third, and then a third at completion.
The guy we met with this morning, and Tyler's looking at it right now, it's a vinyl home run fence. Cam, it does say he does backstops in his webpage, but he doesn't do backstops. It's simply a vinyl fencing, and he would be interested in quoting us just the home run fences, the foul poles, and the yellow or red band across the top of the fence. And he's going to give us a quote. You know, he did tell us that it's going to be more expensive than the black-colored chain link fence that we're using, but he said he'd be glad to get us a quote. And then talking to him and asking if there's anyone in Indiana that has this right now, or Ohio, no, nobody has it. It sounds like there aren't a whole lot of places that do. Most of what they've done has been interior installs. He said there's a place in Indianapolis that has some interior installs.
Haven't heard about this in the winter.
Well, you take it down in the winter.
You have to take it down.
Yeah.
I think you pay more for it, but I have to take it down.
Yeah, well, like I said, we didn't make him any promises. He said he'd be glad to work us up a quote. I think he understands that yeah, it's slim, but he was here.
It looks
Cam.
This is a cousin of my brother-in-law
Yeah.
who heard about this and reached out.
Yeah.
That's why he
Yeah.
happened to be in town. He's
Yeah.
from New York.
Yep.
I don't know who the guy is, but
Yeah.
it looks cool.
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah, it does look cool, Holly. He wanted to brag about how many hundred thousands of hours they've had where no one's been injured running into this fence, and I'm like, yeah, well, if we took all the hours that we've played ball on our chain link fences, but I don't know if we've had any.
That's
How many-
Civil War words.
How many 100 hours? Yeah, we got some more stories. Anyhow, back to the topic.
So, the last thing to touch on with the update would be the concession stands whenever we would get to that point, as the funding allows. Hopefully, we can have that discussion this winter, and look to having something built. We're in the design process right now, and the design stage is getting design releases and such for those buildings whenever that does come to go out for bid. So that's going to be probably, what do you think, Tyler, 350, 360 probably for 2, probably pretty close.
Still planning on going with metal then, or is that the...
Probably.
By the time you get all electrical and stuff in, so, there's still ways to go on this project.
We are, one last thing to add. Did you read the email from Melissa about that?
Yes.
Does that
Yeah,
look okay to
that's
you?
fine, yes.
Okay. Is that this coming Monday, right?
Yes.
This coming Monday is the regular park board meeting. We sent letters out to Decatur boys baseball and Decatur girls softball, and then we're also posting it on social media that the first 30 minutes or so of the park board meeting Monday night will be designated to an update on Hannah Nutman, and we encourage them to come. So I think that'll be good that we keep them in the loop, and every now and then we continue to keep them in the loop, so that there's no surprises.
You had several announcements of more donations. Where are we?
I don't know. A lot of the donations were not sizable enough to make a huge impact. $1,000 here, $1,000 there. And a lot of those were donations, a lot of pictures that we've taken and posted were donations that were already included, like McDonald's. I guess probably the most significant one that's coming recently is later this week, Buckeye Pipeline, our friends who messed up the river there for a while. They say they're bringing us a check for $7,500, $7,500. So that's a good one. And the money that a lot of the big donors have been giving. Excuse me? No, Bungie, we knew that was coming. Yeah, that was already included.
Bungay's been over a 4 or 5 month process.
Yeah. What we need one more big donor. We have 5 of the 6 fields named. We need one more big donor. If anybody has any suggestions, I mean, I don't know if you guys all realize, but this past year, that's pretty much been my agenda, is going out and calling on people and selling this to people. I'm running out of big donors. You know, worst case scenario, we just call it City Field or something, or that last field, and if somebody comes forward later, we can always name it later, but so yeah, if anyone has any suggestions, let me know. Be glad to call on them. Now back to the point at hand. We had the concrete bases. Here's those.
Yes, what's your pleasure on the basis?
On the concrete bases. Coming back to the concrete bases, do we want to make a motion for him to go ahead with that?
With the 25,000 or 20?
With the 38,849 for the.
Oh, yeah.
And 37 to get them installed now, rather than...
Exactly. Well, I guess the question is, do we have the money?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to...
Based on the meeting that we all had this year, we did, yes.
Okay. I think we need to go forward with getting bids on the fencing, because I think you really want to secure the area that they've spent so much time in. I mean...
Now, this is not a perimeter fence that goes all around the park. This is just a fence in each
I
field.
understand, but we've had some, and Jeremy can verify this, we've had some
Absolutely.
idiot kids out there and thank God we caught the one, and we haven't had a lot of trouble since, but there's always somebody that might want to do a little wild driving.
If there's any concern I've had during from what I've seen out there, and Don, you can weigh in too on this if you want, it's the road, Mivers Street, that road, and how we've really torn the heck out of it and actually had to move it over some to the south. Finished product, it's still going to be a road that, if need be, for the bean route, semis can make a pass through. Copy? Yes? Yeah.
Yeah, that was all fixed and brought back up to grade last week while you were gone.
But I mean, it's going to be wide enough and firm enough, weight-wise and everything?
It's done and other than asphalt.
Okay, all right. That was my only concern.
We need to get it secured before somebody takes the four-wheel drive out there and destroys everything.
Exactly.
Because it will happen if we don't do something.
Mhm.
On the perimeter fence, are we going down, are we going to gate it?
Maybe someday.
That road-
That's not part of the project.
I just wondered, I mean, I saw where the center of it comes out and the driveway goes like that with radiuses on it, but the fence is just kind of sitting there. I didn't know if we were going to post that and gate it or...
Hadn't really been discussed. That was just Fleming pulled that loose and pulled it out of there to put the entrance in.
The entrance in there?
We did not want to pull it out of there prior to Fleming putting the entrance in because it was so low through there. Well,
Sure.
Buckeye Pipeline going through there, you know, anybody out there doing that crazy going across that ditch. I would recommend that you, at a minimum, accept the dugout quotes, so we can get those going. We would need the dugouts put in prior to all the fencing.
The Brent Gibson,
Yes. Yeah,
you're
You used him,
recommending
right?
that?
yes.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to talk to him and get him, see.
Because he's busy. Yeah. Well, if we get the okay tonight, I think you need to make a phone call get us on this short list.
Well, basically, you need to get your dugouts in, you need to get your fencing and your backstops up at a minimum.
And that's about 125,000?
That would be the Gibson 25660.
75?
No, 375
And then
for
the
fencing,
375.
backstops, and wall.
So whatever that comes up to being.
So we're looking at 400 grand, and Phyllis has got the money for it?
Through the donation
Mhm.
and the seat, or did I could have to look at it again. I think after all the funding, we figured we could pay for this much of it.
If you can get the block out, good for that, you better.
What?
You better sign him up and start putting the block up.
Brent?
For the 25,000?
You're not gonna-
At least you get the footers in and the slab in, even if he's spring laying a block, it won't take him long to lay the block.
What was the other price?
54.4, he's 25.6,
Yeah.
half the price.
I just want to make sure we had the money for it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for caring.
And make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, what are you making a motion for?
For the dugout.
To do the dugouts?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? What about going forward with the bid for the fencing and the backstop wall?
Okay,
And
if you're in September, October, or November, December, he would probably push it getting it finished this year,
What's that,
all the work, because it's about 6 to 8 weeks worth of work.
you're talking about what?
The fencing.
Okay, the fencing and the backstops.
The fencing and the backstops. So if you're a month from now, October,
Weren't you just wanting to get a bid?
November, December, January, so yeah, you're gonna drag it out into 20 before you pay all the 375.
Okay. You just want to get the bids going.
Yeah,
Right.
get the bid going with the potential of accepting it if the funds are allowed.
So you need a motion?
Yep.
Motion to proceed to bid it out.
Right.
Yeah, so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so go ahead and get that bid. And then the last thing was those light pole bases.
He says he doesn't need a bid for that, we know what the cost is.
Those are just a purchase direct.
You just need a motion
Here's
to
what
approve the
here's what I
purchase.
would like on that. I would like a motion to okay it, subject to
The other two quotes.
everything falling in place and funding being in line, okay? That's the way I'd like that motion to be, because that's the,
Second.
yeah. Okay, I made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So there we go. There's the three motions, the three things taken care of.
Okay. So we're gonna, that was just for the bases?
Just for the bases, correct? Like I said, the install is gonna be about that again.
Mhm.
37
Yeah, but to me, like, as long as we got the money to handle it.
Jeremy, while you're up here, you want to talk about grinding concrete?
Yeah, with all the many thousands of projects we have going on this year, tomorrow by about 9 o'clock, we're going to be out of stone. And we still have a lot more things to do yet this year.
How soon can this company come grind?
Well, I talked to him 3 weeks ago, and he said, I can probably be there in 3 weeks. I said, or about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, well, we don't have a meeting yet, and I need to get the approval to do this.
Do you have plenty of concrete on the ground, Jeremy? Yes?
Yeah, Tom.
With all the sidewalks you tore out in the streets and everything?
So
yeah,
I
that's
talked to him
one
tonight when I was loading trucks, and I said, well, how far are you out? Just in case you guys ask. He goes, well, about 3 weeks. And I said, you told me 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks. He said, well, he said, I can get you here shortly. So if it's approved tonight,
Same price as last year?
it's a little higher because we're not doing as much because we don't have very much money on hand to grind. So we're going to be a little over $6 a ton.
That's still a
Which
bargain.
is still cheap. Kevin and I talked, we want to grind about $20,000 worth of concrete right now. We will be grinding probably a tremendous amount more in 20, I just don't have a whole lot of money in the budget left for this year to be grinding much more than.
Let me ask you a question. How does he do it? Does he do it off a belt scale?
Yeah.
Can he just hold it 220 to where you promise him a budget and let him knock out a bunch more and just pay him after
He
the...
probably won't, no.
He won't?
Not this late.
Who is it?
It's Go Grain out of Ottawa,
Okay.
a kind of smaller company.
All right.
There's probably $150,000 worth of concrete down there to grind,
All right.
if not more.
I'll make a motion that you grind whatever you need.
Yeah, up to 20,000 or whatever you can afford.
Yeah, whatever you can afford in your budget.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
Okay.
now with that, we're gonna be a little short on some stone for Hannah Nutman. I have been talking with Greg, either about holding off a little bit till we get the rest of this ground, or he's got his recycled pile out there that he said that he would work something out with us. Just with all the sidewalk jobs we've done this year and all the water main work and stuff, we've went through a tremendous amount of stone.
Mm-hmm.
We probably went through about 8,000 ton of stone so far this year, which is 8,000 ton would get us a couple of years.
Normally.
$50,000 worth of stone.
And this has been since spring
Slow down.
that we went through that much.
Great.
So, you know, it's definitely cost effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's half the price, guys. So that's why I made the motion.
No, that's right. It makes sense to do.
You don't have to truck it as far too.
No, and it's on our ground.
Right.
It's on our ground.
Right,
In the middle of the city. There's no 10-mile haul.
exactly.
Valuable decision. Thank you, Jeremy.
I think that's all I had. Are you involved in the change order for Taylor Gage?
I have that.
Phyllis has that.
Jeremy, I need to see you after the meeting. I got stuff for you for the park board.
Okay.
Okay, this was another change order that Taylor had. We've already been invoiced for it. It's,
He just submitted that. I haven't paid that yet.
Okay.
We need approval to pay that. It's change order number 2.
88 square feet of sidewalk patch into Stamped Park. And then,
We had to come back a little bit further on Founders Park.
okay. Then he had some trench draining,
Yeah.
$4,000 worth. This is for $4,506. And like I said, I think the work's already been done, correct? Just need to get a motion to okay it.
So moved.
Craig seconds?
Second.
Nod. Motion and a second to pay Taylor Gage on his change order here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did that help fix some of the drainage at Founders Park?
Some.
Okay.
Not a lot, but some.
All right.
Okay, Jeremy, I think we're done with you. Cam,
Yeah.
Question quick.
Yep.
Are we just waiting on Brown Armor for our wall?
Yes, it should be happening here real soon.
Cam has the information from
Okay.
Sam up here for you. We're gonna email him our plans.
These cards still in there, I'll just sit back there and email him myself.
Bathrooms look nice. And nothing.
Carrie,
Legion Park.
Just gonna say. Hope you didn't use them out at Head of Nutman.
Carrie emailed me and Craig and Bill that she had 2 quotes for wastewater consulting services. One from Strand, one from Pat Beeman. Strand's been our consultant for many years. They just recently helped with our permit renewal. Pat Beeman works with our chemical supplier, Brentag, and has been out at the plant helping us troubleshoot since November 2018. She would like to retain both consultants. Some questions was asked of her. I didn't print off, maybe I did. Yeah, just so as everyone's on the same page. This is for our significant non-compliance letter that was received in June of 2019 as a result of violations starting in February 2018. The plant has been functioning at capacity since the last clarifier was brought online in January 2019 after the end of construction. Since we've received the significant non-compliance letter, we have not had any violations. Then she said, Yahoo! However, the plant is experiencing some high phosphorus numbers that we cannot explain. This is where the expertise of two consultants would be helpful. Both consultants have said that they think that the Decatur wastewater treatment plant is possibly oversized. When the last aeration tanks were engineered, Dean Foods was sending high BODs, which stands for,
biological oxygen demand.
like as I said, BODs loads. Dean's changed production in November 2018 to novelty ice cream from full-fledged gallons of ice cream, which reduced their production by 30%, production of waste coming to us.
Just their overall production dropped 30%.
Okay?
So I can't correlate how much a reduction it is
Okay.
of wastewater, but
But that reduced the amount of wastewater being sent to the waste treatment plant. So that's what Carrie had to say. She visualized 3 full days of consulting. I guess one thing I would want to question is they're engineers, right?
Strand is, yes.
One's an engineer. What's the other guy?
Pat is just a microbiological guru, I guess we'll call him.
Strand's who
If he
we've
has
been
a
working with
long
for
title,
years.
I don't know it.
Okay.
I guess my question is, are they selling us chemical?
Bruntag is where we get our chemicals from. So
That's
yes.
where we get our chemicals from?
Mhm. So that's why he's been out of the plant since November, helping us troubleshoot some of these issues.
So, but Strand's an engineer, but what's their experience as an operator as such? I mean, would they...
I see them putting, Pat is a very knowledgeable man, and he talks here and here and here all at the same time. And I see Strand helping get all of that information into a usable package. That's my bet. Not the answer you were looking for?
I don't know. I know that we've used Strand for as long as I can recall. It's a name that I've heard, Ann mention over the years.
We're on call too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they've been on call. They're saying Troy Larson is their operations specialist. He would be the gentleman that would spend time in Decatur.
I guess where my only concern is not that I'm not confident with them exactly, but we've been using Strand, and yet we kind of have some situations that are...
But we've never called them in on this
Yeah,
problem.
never had him as a consultant.
Not for these silos
Right.
operations, no. We were working with Pat at that time.
You just said solids. Now, is that something to do with the phosphorus? Is that also the same thing?
That's
or-
where the phosphorus is found in the solids.
Okay.
It's usually a chemical reaction or a chemical treatment.
Yes, that's where Bruntag
That-
comes into play.
That's where we need to do is chemically get this in balance.
But then that we're going back to the plant being oversized. We have more aeration than what we probably need, is what both of the consultants are saying. So we've got to figure out how to make do with what we have. The amount of food coming in, which is coming in as BOD.
Kevin, you got any thoughts back there? No? Okay.
I don't know the guy from Strand that she talked about, but if he's not had to do with operations, I think that'd be good.
I think what we really want to make sure is that whatever recommendations they make, that we follow through with them.
Yes. Which would be more coming back to you guys saying, okay, this is what their recommendation is. How can I proceed forward, whether it be replumbing, recirculating, so it would require potential construction out of the plant.
I was under the impression after talking to Tom Gray, who runs Dean Foods, that they went from a less natural ice cream and a lot more quantity to an all-natural ice cream, which changed the bacteria in the wastewater that was sent to the plant. Now, it sounds to me like if we're purchasing chemicals from somebody, and I was purchasing chemicals from it in a large quantity, as a city, if the flocculant that they're using is not working, I don't think we need to pay them as a consultant to get us the right flocculant to make solids fall out. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think that's number one angle. If they're not actually plant people, if they're chemical people, and they're selling its chemicals, one of them. And what I've noticed is that a lot of our pipes have observation, and pumps have been shut off probably because we can't get the solids out of the plant at the plant. Am I wrong? Because I've seen overflows throughout the city in the last 3 to 4 months, several times throughout the city, where the pipe blows out the top and there's solids all over a grassy area. I've witnessed that 2 times. I've also discussed it with the city department that do the pipe work, and I've been around the vac trucks and the cameras to where we have a lot of maintenance issues also. So before we go throw another $12,000 at this, I agree if we need to fix the problem and we need to stay in compliance, I think we need to utilize the people and probably the procedures that we're doing to make sure that plant is flowing at capacity without using the pipes underground as storage. So my point is I think that if it's a flocculant issue where we got to get the solids out of it, chemical, if that's chemical's the way to go, we need to get on them to get us the proper chemical. And if the major producer of this is Dean Foods, we should be talking to Dean Foods direct, don't you think?
They're not the producer of they're actually supplying us with food, and since they've decreased production, the amount of food that's coming in is decreased as well, which is causing us to have to alter the amount of phosphorus chemical that we're adding to remove it effectively.
Basically, it's a difference in the type of bacteria, right?
Correct.
And we have to change the flocculant to get the solids to fall out at the plant level.
It could be that, or it could be you have to change the location that's being applied.
Oh, where the flocculant would be applied?
Yes.
Okay. And who would be the best to, you're saying that these 2 companies would be the best to tell us how to operate that and apply that?
They have the most knowledge of our plant.
Okay.
So we would be ready to go in a matter of a few weeks versus having to bring somebody in and spend a lot more time at the plant to understand how the plant functions.
Okay.
Now, I know when we talked to you, Bill and I and Kevin came out and talked to you that one day, and you in Berlin, and we'd mentioned Structure Point.
Yep.
The fact that they have done work out there for us already and that we have a contract with them already, which is still an open contract. You still don't want to even get a quote from them?
We have an open contract with Strand as well. They engineered the clarifiers. They, to my knowledge, have not done any other engineering to be able to understand the hydraulics of the plant and how it's set up.
Okay. Okay.
Because when you guys came out, you had asked my opinion, and I said these were the 2 that I would prefer to go with. So that's who I got quotes from.
I just want, and that's fine with me, Carrie. It really is. I just want to see us get to the point where everything is like Craig said. That we're not storing solids underground, and that we don't have that issue.
I'm not sure where you've got the information that we're storing solids underground.
Well, I drove by Belmont High School in that low area that's on the south side of the river where Biggs' sign is. There was a manhole cover blowed off and solids all over that field. When I pulled down there, I saw...
Along Jackson?
Yes.
That manhole?
Yeah.
That has been strapped down since and repaired.
Right. But the reason it was like that, I would assume, is because they didn't have the pumps on pushing it to the plants, because the plant probably couldn't handle the capacity of the material at that time.
We are a CSO community, which you guys know, so that allows us to overflow into the river. And that is a lesser violation, if you will, than if I were to send crappy water through the plant, because all of that that's leaving the plant is tested. And if I don't meet all of those parameters, then that's the violations that get the significant noncompliance. But if I can send it out through the CSO, then we're better off as a community, unfortunately.
We don't get dinged as hard.
We don't, because we're permitted to do that. I just have to report how much went out.
So in a sense, we're kind of storing it underground, letting it go.
In a sense, but there's been manholes that were not properly strapped down that have since been strapped. And it's one of those things that I think as the pressure builds up down the line, it's going to continue to go, and the next manhole may potentially blow off, and then we have to fix that one. You're continuing to chase the problem.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be any pressure on that wall, should there?
Yeah, because you've got the river pressure and the pressure of the water trying to get to the plant.
But if the plant is functioning the way it should, that shouldn't happen.
No, our capacity of our plant, what, is 8 million?
7.1.
7.1 million, and we have 1 million storage. Did they get the agitator fixed in the blue tank over here?
It is not required to be fixed for it to hold the full capacity of that 1 million gallons.
So in theory, that tank should fill up before the manhole starts flowing,
And it probably did.
all the way full.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you want the agitator working though with the blue tank?
It's just going to keep the solid stirred up. So in actuality, it would decrease, I would think, the capacity of the tank because you're going to have it swirling. And they kind of create a vortex where it would go a little
You keep the solids from settling in the tank and then filling the bottom of the tank up the way it is now. Because all that does, it still holds 1 million gallons, but
Yeah.
when it's empty, I mean, we have
What
to-
about how deep is the crud in that tank? We need to clean it out, right?
We do, and that we have every intention of doing that, but our sludge beds are full already out of the plant. So I have nowhere to put it.
Okay.
Well, I think the main thing is, the reason I asked Carrie to get some consulting is that we've had so many problems with EPA as far as our solids and other things. And I think as a new manager, instead of continuing to do it the old way, I think it's time that she takes control and get some help, and then we start doing it the right way. I mean, that's my only thought. Because you don't want to continue to have the EPA down here writing us up. First of all, that's not good for us,
No.
because then they're going to know that maybe something is not right. And it's also not good for you. You know, being in manufacturing and having different government personnel come into your plant is kind of nerve-wracking. And I think you need that comfort also. But I also feel when consultants come in and give you the information, you have to do it, you know. And I think
I have no problem doing that. I would like to see the plant get to the point where it's fully automated. That based on the flow coming in and the biosolids or whatever ends up being that parameter, will adjust the chemical going to the effluent and therefore decreasing all of these other issues, because right now it's all, we look at this monitor and make these adjustments based on that. If the water or the rain is coming, well then we have to make these adjustments. So there's a lot of labor involved in running the plant. So I think if it could get to the point where it was automated, that would be very helpful.
it was my understanding you saw one plant like that a week or two ago.
Yes.
And you were quite impressed?
It was impressive.
And it gives you,
For 1 million
and that gives you a goal also.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a motion? to use these people, or where are we at on all this, or we need to keep moving? I still got more items and we're running out of time.
What was the cost? I didn't get.
Well,
It's like $11,000.
If
Yeah.
you did both of them, if you guys want to go with one or the other, I'm fine with that. But I guess I could pick somebody
But it's
because they
structured.
each have their strengths, and they're all
They gave us a
different.
price, it would be per hour. Yeah. She didn't talk to Structure Point.
I did not.
No. And, you know, and I did a while back, but I just know that they've been aggressive trying to pursue that.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination that we need both.
I just want to get the problem solved.
Well, you need both. You need chemicals, additives, to reduce solids, and you also need engineering to tell you.
I agree with that,
How
but
to
if
do
somebody's
it.
selling me the chemical, do I need to pay them for a consulting fee? That would be my question.
Well, that's why he's been doing it free of cost up until now, but we needed 2 quotes based on the price, and so I asked him to get me a quote.
Okay. So it's
So
not, we don't need to...
We don't have to get him as a consultant then if he's buying the chemical from him.
I don't know how that was going to be going forward, since I asked him for the price. He does consulting work, and I'm kind of under the impression that Brentag hires him to be their consultant for their suppliers, or their users.
Let's get this flocculent problem, solids problem worked out.
Why do we think two people do the same thing?
They each have different expertise,
One's a chemical guy and one's an
an engineer.
engineer guy. But Brentag, maybe we should have went to Brentag and not to Pat Beeman. But that makes it...
My Brentag rep quit, and he had brought Pat out, and Pat has been helping us since November. So that's why Pat's been coming out. We've got an ORP meter that he's helping us look at and make adjustments based on that.
I say for starters, we go with just Strand. If need be, we can always add Beeman later on.
And if you got structure point on a call basis, utilize them.
Yeah, and the thing about
I've got a
Structure Point that I remember them saying is,
Operations.
is that they got a couple of guys on staff that are not only engineers, they're operators. I mean, they've operated plants. So,
My only concern with that is you have a preconceived notion sometimes as an operator, this is how all plants run, and all plants don't run the same. So,
okay.
but
Bill, what do you suggest? Or Craig, either one?
Well, yeah, Craig, go ahead. You said not to use, or the mayor said don't use both, or we could always use the chemical person later if the engineering comes up with chemical additives.
You know, my opinion there is, you know, I can't see paying Pat Beeman from Brentag when we're buying the product from Brentag. Brentag should be offering that service to us.
They should be doing us a good service, we're buying the chemical from them.
Yeah, so that's why I say let's not hire
Okay.
Pat Beeman with Brentag. Let's hire Strand, and then when it comes time where we got to talk to Brentag, okay, what do you advise pro bono? You know, not.
okay.
You agree?
Well, and if you want to get structure point involved, he's been working on the plant with operators. I have a feeling we might be doing something not right in the plant. I don't know. I've looked at it, I talked to Verlin 4 years ago and asked him to, I don't know how you could possibly run a plant without having numbers on pumps and pipes and a flow diagram written down and on a computer sheet. I asked him that 4 years ago. I never seen it.
Yeah,
I've
he's
never
got it
seen a
up here,
number.
and that's all it-
Never seen a number in the plant. So you know, we've got a software system with the water plant and the billing and all that. I was under the impression that this was going to fit right into the sewer plant, or if that's a different mechanism, but I don't know how you can be held accountable as a department if you don't have a maintenance schedule that is organized and itemized to where you know the flow through the plant, where the problems are, and you can how do you put that on a timetable to maintain it? That would be my question. I've been to the plant several times, and I've dealt
I'm not
with
gonna
solids and
disagree
treatment
with
plants.
you. I mean, it's something that we need to do. And as he tells me a little bit, I'm writing notes and making spreadsheets because I don't know where else to store that. And I told Don the same thing. I go, when he's out in the camera truck with you and he tells you, well, this is like this because, I go, make sure you're making notes because that's gold.
Right. You're only as good as the information that you're given.
Don?
Just want to make sure you guys give Sherry what she needs to fix the problem.
That's what I want to do.
Don't shortchange her on something she needs.
Okay, all right. What do you think?
Well, she knows best on that part of it. I'm just saying, if she's asking for both.
Do both. It's 11,000 compared to 8 million at this time.
Use both right away.
No. And I guessed on how much Pat would possibly be.
Yeah.
Because you're going into winter here for long, it's going to be a lot tougher on her to get it straightened up in the winter than it is during the summer.
All right. I'll make a motion to give her what she needs to get the thing fixed.
Both of them.
Yep, and count on Carrie to take care of it.
Second. Bill seconds that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carrie, thank you.
Yep.
It wasn't easy sitting there tonight, was it?
That's all right. Part of the job.
Appreciate you. Okay, now we're going to have to fly through a few items here in a real quick time. Kevin, 5-year write-offs. We all know this is coming. It's something that past due utilities, we send them to collections for a period of 5 years. After 5 years, what comes back gets written off. And
Oh boy.
this is what we're trying to eliminate. And so far this year, we have eliminated, pretty much so. However, with House Bill 1347 being in a conundrum right now in and of itself with the possible legislation coming back from Congressman, what's his name, Woody Burton. If he has anything to do with it, it'll come right back to us. The amount that we got to write off is $25,856.27.
Correct.
And these are all from 2014, 13 and 14.
Yeah.
13 and 14. There's nothing we can do about it. I'll look for a motion to proceed.
So moved. Second.
Reluctantly, all in favor? Aye. Reluctantly, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Kevin.
It was 28 what?
It was 25,856.27.
Both of them, you think?
25,856.
I'm signing all of them so he can send it over there.
I just need one and then I'll fill it.
Two.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, patronicity contract, I don't even know if you need to come up. Tim is okay that we proceed with the patronicity contract. Until we do so, and Melissa gets everything turned into patronicity, we won't get our $50,000 from patronicity, so I'd look for a motion.
Motion to pass patronicity.
The contract.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
The only thing I'll say on that is, Melissa, Phyllis, make sure that the affirmative covenants we pay attention to, that we're supposed to get some kind of a certification from the contractor that does a project about debarment, not hiring somebody that's debarred by the state. And Phyllis, there's a 7-year record-keeping requirement. So it's the same thing basically before. There was things in there I didn't necessarily like, but it's not negotiable. So.
Okay, Phyllis, I'm not giving you much time, but Phyllis wants to talk about budget real quick. Council members included.
The next process of the budgets was
27.
figuring the tax rate and the tax levy. We need to make some adjustments. The revenues that are coming in anticipating the property tax for Park and Rec, we need to cut something somewhere. I talked to Jeremy and to add another employee and to repair the bridge for way over what we can expend. So,
How is that?
well, if you take what the budget that's coming in and what revenues are coming, what budget's going out, what revenues are coming in, what we're going to get in tax settlement, it's not enough. I mean, our reserves are supposed to be 20, they recommend 20 to 25%. By having that in there, Well, when I first did it, with the total budget in there, it was like 51,000 in total. So, I haven't even put the property tax caps in there. Yeah, so, there's just not enough revenue in that fund to get.
Were we going to use some of that EM money to fund that employee as part of the capital improvement plan?
We've never used
Not the
it that way.
employee, no.
We've
Not
never
the
used
employee.
it that way.
You could use the money for bridge.
Yeah.
Good bridge, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking.
Yeah.
That was.
My only question
Take
was,
that out.
I mean, I just have a hard time believing that, I mean, I understand the numbers, but our revenue went down from last year.
Yeah, there's more revenue, but we don't have a big a balance in there either. I mean, we've been spending a lot, I don't know if you've noticed, we've been spending a lot of money the last couple of years. So our cash reserves get smaller and smaller.
Okay. So it's not that the revenue went down, it's just that our appetite has gotten...
Would we be able to do the bridge?
The bridge, if we pull it out and put it in CETA, we pay it on the CETA instead of on the Park and Rec.
Okay, so that's a means of making that happen, because it really does need to happen, that bridge. But then this next question then I have is there another way of funding that employee? Tim and I were talking earlier, Hannah Nutman is not owned by the Park Department. It's owned by the city. Is there another way? Could we, we fund my position from several different entities and so on. Can we fund an employee that primarily might work there from other departments?
That would be up to you and council to make that
Well, there's going
decision.
to be times that, yes, we want to take care of that part. There's times that you're going to be working on that part, but that employee's going to have to go work for Jeremy.
You'd be considered probably a public works employee then.
Jeremy,
I don't know.
you hearing all this?
Yep. I don't know, I thought about that this afternoon after Phyllis and I talked this morning.
I mean, could this be a public works employee that does work? I mean, right now you kind of farm anybody here and there and everywhere, as it is.
It could be, if we could figure out where the majority of the money's going to come from, or how we're going to fund that. Kevin and I have already talked about maybe trying to share somebody at some point. You got to keep in mind that basically March, April, spring of the year, that person would have to be able to get Hannah Nutman open. Go through all the winter repairs, everything, up until October-ish, depending on if you're having tournaments. If you're not having tournaments, that could drop off July, August. And then just the general upkeep from that point going forward. Say the first year we had no tournaments. It's over at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You're going to have something for that person to do the end of June for March, April the following year. Which my thought, if it was just a park employee or whatever, we're short in a couple areas that we always seem to just kind of make up with through the tree service and through, water short of time, street short of time. The person could be used, throughout public works in general. It's just,
So we want to budget
probably back to Phyllis is where would be the, if you choose to pursue with this, where's the most logical place to pay that from?
Well, if they're public works, I would say pay from the street and utilities if Kevin's willing to.
And couldn't
Use
you,
the funds of
and then
of the
a
utilities.
portion from the parks too, couldn't you?
Parks isn't going to have it.
Well, Parks and
Not
Rec
even-
can't have another employee. They just, they can't.
there isn't
Because
anything.
Even if I remove those two items, their reserves is 47,000, which is only 5.6% of reserves, and they are recommending 20% to be in there. I mean, it's okay, but it's
20
not
was pretty
great.
high.
Yeah, it's high, but that's what I'm saying, that's only 6% by taking it out.
Yeah.
And a razor.
Typical budget, if you can keep
Well, for-
6%, and it's just the budget itself, you're doing good.
Well, I'd like to do that, that's why I can't, I'm trying to remove those two items.
Oh, this one will probably just have
Public Works employees and directly there, the time of year it's needed.
Up to you guys to decide how you want to,
I'm all right.
how you want to approach it.
I'm gonna think we gotta protect our investment. That's more money than we've put into anything in the city.
And in 2020, this coming summer, I don't know how many tournaments we'll actually have out there. I can't see it being an every weekend thing, but I think 2021, it's going to be.
Well, I think there's another thing, we talk about protecting our investment, there
Yep.
are other things that we are putting money into that's going to require maintenance.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Downtown.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
so I think it makes sense, Public Works, if you take those two items out of there, maybe you're not quite at 20%, but
It's at
remember,
least something.
we've given 100,000 and seeded, which will more than cover the bridge and then allow for 550 more that's there. So I think it'll be fine.
If we could use off that 100,000 for the bridge and a few other little smaller capital projects, I think we'd probably be okay. You're probably not back in our ideal situation, but it's probably be a lot better off.
Yeah.
You know, we don't
Northwest Elementary.
spend a lot, we don't have a lot of real fat in that budget whatsoever, because there's just not.
So we're not gonna dip into that on the seat.
That budget's pretty much laid flat. In there too. Up until last year or so when we added an employee.
So we added it, yeah.
But like I said, the last couple of years, everything has a life cycle and we're into that.
It's not gonna affect Northwest Elementary, is it, what we talked about last week? Okay.
Kevin, are you okay with that? With the utilities? Huh?
We talked about possibly, see, we need to pull that and another employee out of parks, because there's just not enough money to fund that. If we throw that person into a public works employee, to where we can all use them, all use that person, you know, whether it's, you know, help plant, whether it's whatever, changing meters.
So what would it all be split through, buildings?
However we feel.
To be determined.
You know, I would probably pay some of it, I would probably pay it a third or better, like you, because we're just
Okay.
out of money.
Okay. You good, fellas?
That's good for that.
Good.
And then the other one is, I did budget like 60,000 for Riverboat, and we're a little short in that, so I might have to decrease that. That was supposed to go for the capital project, because we only get like 50,000 a year in those revenues, and we've been spending a lot on the Riverboat. And then the CDIP fund, it's a little over too. I think if I can adjust the amounts a little bit, I think we'll be okay. So I want to hold off on passing that ordinance until I get that adjusted.
Okay.
That's okay with everyone.
Our CETA was based on a projection of,
It's all projected, it's all estimates right now.
I'm just surprised that the estimate has gone down.
But we spent probably the majority of the CETA for this year. That's what I think, but maybe different. It's not a lot. I spent a lot of it the last 2 years.
Okay, we've run about 5 minutes over in the Board of Works meeting.
I have just one more thing.
Phyllis
If
has
we could
one more
just
thing.
make the recorded deed for North Adams Community Schools to the city of Decatur, that's the Northwest Building. A matter of record, please.
Motion to make that a matter of record.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Anything else before the Board of Works?
Thank you.
If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?